Guys, welcome to episode 84 of the Jungle Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Joe Worthington. We don't have T and Paulie here today, but that doesn't matter because I'm the one that you come to listen to anyways. We have a guest with us, Rawdon Dubois. I'll let you do a little intro for yourself in a moment, Rawdon, but I've heard about you through the training realm, through mutual friends of ours, Jared Thatcher, who works here, our ART practitioner, Luke Tulloch, who was on the podcast down the track.
See, I know them as Schmoosey and Groundskeeper Willie, but yeah, I know the two guys you're talking about, yes.
Is which one's Groundskeeper Willie?
Well, who looks like Groundskeeper Willie?
Luke.
Jacked off his head and a bit of a ranger through the beard. So yeah, that's Lukey. Okay,
100%. And mate, look, they've all had, reasonably excellent things to say about you. Jared said you're a bit of a dick. But
wow, thank you, Jared. Very on point there.
It's Jared, isn't it? Mm. But you've got, you're a known guy in the field. I've crossed paths with you back when I used to visit the gym that you were working at, which was Lift Performance Centre.
Yep.
Which is no longer.
No, sadly.
And I attended a seminar, The Evil Genius. Which
Chavez, yeah.
Yeah, you're wearing his T-shirt.
Yeah, represent.
That was an interesting experience for me because there was a lot of talk of steroids and things like that are generally kind of out of my realm, right?
Yeah. It's like everyone's in the industry. Well, I think everyone is intrigued by it. They hear, elite sport is riddled with it from time to time. You see someone get tested positive, so they're all curious about it, but no one really wants to ask about it. So that's the beauty of B. Chavez. He knows the ins and outs of it all. So you can just sort of sit there, fold your arms, and just listen and go, "Well, that's kind of cool." Now I got a little bit of an insight into how what goes on in that world. But yeah, it was a big seminar. That was awesome. That one.
That was something you organised?
Myself and obviously Tommy and Taz. Taz is Tommy Hewitt, my partner in crime on our Under the Bar podcast. And we've done over 100 episodes. But the Under the Bar podcast, we collaborated with Flex Success. So Lizzie and Dean and Dalton.
Oh, yeah.
Alan, I think, came as well. Those guys are based in Queensland. And yeah, we did a seminar in Sydney and then up to Queensland, I believe. So we did two. So that's what we did.
Okay.
I think the first one might have just been. I think the second time we brought him out, it was in Sydney and in Queensland.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think. Can't remember. We've brought him out a few times, but yeah, that one in Sydney was behemoth. I think we had over 100 attendees. It was crazy.
It was mad.
Yeah,
I was the smallest guy in the room.
Yeah, there was some big boys there, definitely. But it was really good because it brought everyone from different gyms, and everyone was sort of came together, and it was really a very organic seminar. Everyone just sort of come, and you know what it was like outside. We had the foyer, and everyone was sort of high fiving, and I had Jada, my little English staffie. She was running around, if you recall.
Is that the tattoo I see on
you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jada there. She was running around like a crazy staffie, and it was just it was a really good, really good seminar, and the feedback was all pretty good. Yeah,
mate. So you're an online coach, and my understanding, looking from the outside without knowing you personally, was that it was most of the work you do is in the bodybuilding realm. Mm-hmm. But I took a deeper look at your Instagram, and I see there's obviously immense physiques. This is what I'm saying, and there's a whole range of them, and I see some bodybuilding, but I don't see the word bodybuilding getting thrown around a lot. So there's a lot more going on there than sort of meets the eye for someone like me. Mm-hmm. What is it? What do you do?
So yeah, I've done my time at a commercial gym, no doubt. Actually, you didn't do your time. You just open up Jungle Brothers, and there you go. So
I did 2 years at under Clint Hill at Anytime Fitness.
Ah, yeah, Clint. Yeah. Awesome.
Another mutual friend.
Yeah, working alongside him at Lift. I served my sentence at a commercial club, and that was Fitness First, which is awesome if you're coming into the industry. I think Fitness First brings a lot to that to the table there. But that was at Hornsby. A friend of mine who you may or may not know, Steve Bordeaux, the conditioning specialist. I did a show, and he talked me into becoming a PT, and I went, I don't think so. And anyway. A little short time later, I had changed careers and became a PT full time, and a couple of years up at Hornsby, and then met Dane McDonald, which some may know. Your listeners will know Clean Health Fitness Institute.
Yes.
So worked, well, I was sort of the first one that came on with Dane. Actually, there was someone prior to me, but of that sort of latest incarnation of I guess the Clean Health brand. I came on initially and then helped him there and worked in Anytime Fitness in Leonards where Clean Health was. I left Fitness First Hornsby. I started then prepping a few competitors back when I was, before Clean Health actually opened up. We were sort of between Fitness First North Sydney, Bond Street in the city, and then Anytime Fitness in Leonards. So we had a few clubs. I was just at St Leonards. Anytime Fitness, and then Dane opened up the Clean Health Performance Centre in the city. So that was the first sort of club like that, really. Certainly in Sydney, there was Shredded. I don't know if you know Shredded Strength Institute in Perth with Kelly and Marty. That's a similar gym, all Atlantis equipped. A transformation type gym, so a lot of machines, but racks and barbells and really all Alico, Atlantis top end equipment. But Sydney was Clean Health was really the first of that kind in Sydney, so that was awesome, and I got a lot of exposure to more athletes that I coached. James Cant, you may or may not, some of your listeners may be aware of him. He's an IFBB pro athlete, and I helped him get his pro card. That was sort of one of the early ones back in the days, which got me a little bit more exposure.
Was he at the seminar?
Yeah, he would have.
Was he the widest guy in the room? Super wide shoulders?
Yeah, he could have been. He rocked up and paid his respects on the day, definitely. So Clean Health in the city, started doing more physique prep, but also was still doing just high-end clientele. Like Dane billed me out at a silly rate, and I took on whoever wanted to pay the rate. So I was doing a lot of PT then as well, and helping manage the club / whatever I needed to be my role at the club. And then left there and then focused, this was about 2015-ish, focused on the Dubois method, really original name, just my last name method, but exclusively on physique preparation. So it could be for a professional photo shoot or any of those divisions in a physique competition. So it could be bodybuilding, could be men's physique, which is different, but they're all essentially bodybuilding. They're all building muscle to just fit into different categories. And that's pretty much what I do. So I do weekly check-ins. I'm based currently at World Gym Castlereagh in the city. I was at the Lift Performance Centre, but I do a couple of PT sessions with some athletes I've coached for a while, but predominantly it's just skin fold assessments and posing practice. I don't actually build myself as a posing coach. I outsource to the likes of Amy Fox, and she's a physique pro, and Charlie Duca, he's an ex-pro bodybuilder. So I refer out for posing, support my colleagues there. But we just get in front of the mirrors each week after check-in and just make sure everything's looking good, take a few progress pics with them. That all occurs at World Gym Castlereagh Street. So that's the skin fold assessment, and sit down and talk shop of how the week's been for them. But all physique athletes, but it could be anything from a photo shoot to a bodybuilder hopping up on stage.
Okay, so that's so I think I was getting the term physique mixed with there's a physique category within the competition, isn't there?
There's men's physique, women's physique, correct.
Which is like the beachy kind of broad short
for look? For the guys, definitely men's physique and men's fitness. Some of the federations you might be familiar with that one, but then you have classic physique, which are the physiques like Frank Zane, Arnold, Franco, those bodybuilders back in the day, more classic lines. So they call it classic physique, where you have to be a certain weight for your height, so they limit how big you can be for the category. So classic sort of lines.
Very proportional.
Yeah, well, it's always proportional. Like anyone with a small waist, big V-taper, wide clavicles, good muscle bellies is always going to win. Doesn't matter if they jump in men's physique with the board shorts or classic physique with the trunks or the smaller trunks with bodybuilding.
Yeah.
If you've got great genetics, you've got great genetics. But some may be more suited for certain divisions, and that's why they gravitate to those divisions. But women's physique is actually quite muscular. So women's physique is pretty much the top of the muscularity for women, and then they've just reintroduced, I think, in the Pro League anyway, in the Mr. Olympia. You would have heard of Mr. Olympia. Currently, it's Brandon Curry, but Phil Heath and Ronnie Coleman, all these guys.
Yep.
So that particular federation, because there's different federations, it gets a little confusing. But they've just reintroduced women's bodybuilding. So this year, I think at the Olympia, they're going to have women's bodybuilding again. So it sort of died for a few years. And I think there was a rogue, Wings of Strength, I think in the US, was a guy that started promoting women's bodybuilding again and running shows. So the women that just love being pretty much bigger than us three in this room put together, those women now actually have competitions that they can compete in. So that's quite exciting for the sport of bodybuilding. And that's I think this year, this Olympia is going to be the first where they're going to have women's bodybuilding. I don't know how many years it hasn't been there, but women's physique was the most muscular. But you're right, men's physique is the board shorts, that beach look. But they're still pretty jacked. So it's hardly, you don't need any muscle for men's physique. You need you need the aesthetics to fit the category. You want a small waist, great abdominal shape.
Yep. Because
the legs are not going to be judged. I mean, even if you have no calves, your upper body is still good. You're still going to win.
Yep.
But yeah, you really need the shape to fit that category. And if you're a bodybuilder and you slip some shorts on, then that's not really the look. It's not a bodybuilder in shorts. It is small waist, really wide clavicles, big V taper, and that's the type of thing. Like I'll come across athletes that want to do a certain category. And it's like, you don't fit that category. You don't look like that. You want to do, men's physique, but your waist isn't particularly small. Your abdominals aren't that very well shaped. You got great lower body. Like you should do bodybuilding where you can get more body parts judged, and you don't have to have that tiny waist, really wide clavicles, and really good abdominal shape, if you will. So, and same with some of the female categories. That it's like, I don't want to do bikini. I want to do fitness. Like, well, you're not really muscular enough and conditioned enough to do fitness, which would be the next one up from bikini. You're more suited for bikini. So you can sort of head into different categories, I guess, but I honestly think that you're just sort of more suited to a particular category more so than another category, and that's usually how I recommend the athletes think, even if they have fixated on open class bodybuilder. It's like, dude, you got no legs. Like, you're never going to be an open class bodybuilder, okay? Even if you've been training for 15 years and you still got no legs. So, if the legs were going to grow, they probably would have done something in the last 15 years, even if you were doing everything wrong.
Yep.
In regards to hypertrophy, and that's a different conversation. But yeah, so
they hadn't done the Dubois method yet.
Well, I mean, that like we discussed before we went to it, that's just dotting I's and crossing T's, creating that infrastructure. It's up to them whether they follow the plans closely, I suppose. But jokes aside, it doesn't matter what training technique you adopt. It's not all of a sudden your legs are going to grow. Like after 15 years of training the lower body, there's nothing that's really, and even jumping on, you mentioned performance enhancing drugs and, anabolic supplementation, even going on that, it's not all of a sudden going to change how you grow muscle. Like, you would have already started growing muscle if you had potential to grow muscle in the lower body. So for that individual, maybe, men's physique in the board shorts might be more appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Would you say, I mean, obviously, everyone's aware that genetics play a huge part at the upper level of any sport.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. But would you say that it's probably more important in bodybuilding purely because it is, or not bodybuilding, but in this physique competition, purely because it is an aesthetic based thing? Like, it's based on, the size of your joints and how much muscle you can build and that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like, if you ask my opinion of what should be on stage at the end of the day, and I've actually judged for a few different federations as well. And in my opinion, it's a competition of aesthetics. I mean, go look at the criteria and the guidelines for each of the categories. It's not, be in good shape and get on stage and give it a crack, which I completely respect. People have had a great transformation. It's great to get up and, I guess, show your hard work in that forum, but it's not really about, for me anyway, having a great transformation, getting up on stage, like maybe do a shoot or get down to the beach on the weekend and, people will appreciate you're in good shape. But really this is a competition of, like you said, aesthetics, proportions, muscle mass, conditioning for the different categories. So I think for me, that's what I want to see up on stage. And if you don't have, it would be like me, trying to be a pro level. I'm 4 foot tall and trying to be a pro level basketballer. It ain't going to happen. You don't have the genetics for that sport. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you try. You're just not going to be competitive against guys that are 7 feet tall. So it's the one sport, I guess, if you call it a sport. Could call it a sport.
You call it a sport?
Yeah, I call it a sport. Definitely. I refer to the guys and girls as athletes, because as soon as I do that, they take on the responsibilities or the thought processes and the psychology behind being an athlete. And athletes follow the plans, they do the work, they follow the food, they're diligent with it, So I do that in part because I do think they're athletes. I do think it's a sport. But it's also so they that take on that mindset of an athlete. But bodybuilding is physique competition is one sport, if you will, that average Joe thinks that they can. Well, I'm going to train. I'm going to take some drugs, and I'm going to get on that Olympia stage. It's like, well, no, you're not. Okay, because you're not. I mean, they're freaks of freaks. These guys that end up on the Mr. Olympia stage. I mean, the genetic. How many people on the planet are pro bodybuilders for a start, and how many are actually 10 people, 20 people in the Mr. Olympia stage? It's like 20 people out in the world. Okay, no, you're not one of those. Okay, so taking all the drugs in the world, I ain't gonna. Now there could be exceptions to the rule, and maybe they're a genetic. Freak, but it's so many moving parts to it to be successful. Yes, you need the genetics, but you need everything to be able to do all the training, recover from all the training. It's so many moving parts would go into ending up as the best in the world. But it's the one sport where people always think that, I could do that. Yeah, more if I took what they took, I could easily be. No, you can't. Okay, just like. You're not going to be, in that example, a pro basketballer and dominate basketball at 4 foot tall. Like, you just don't have the necessary genetics to excel at that sport. And same could be said for the bodybuilding. It is 100% an aesthetically driven sport, and that's the reality. You could present the most conditioned physique for you. And I always tell the athletes I coach that their goal is to be the best they can be at that point in time, not 6 months from now, not 6 months prior, not last year, not 2 years from now. It's completely different prep, so forget about it. The best you could be at that point in time. And if you get the win, and wins can be fickle, it could be, they're so close. I like that girl's haircut. It's just she presented a little better, so I'm going to go with her. That's first and second. Second place is pulling the hair out. Why did I lose? It's like, well, because your hair was not as good as the presentation is part of it. So it can
very subjective. At that point, it can be.
Yeah, exactly. It is, 100%. Because it's not. I lifted the most load. It's not. Well, you're a clear winner. It is down to the people actually judging you. I like a little bit more conditioning. I like my guys and girls more conditioned for this category. So I'm going to go with that one or this one. So I wouldn't hinge success or failure on placings. It's just, are you better than last time? If it's your first time on stage, did you achieve what you wanted to achieve? Great, yes or no. Was it better than last time? Yes or no? And these are all successes. I was more conditioned. I brought up my weak body parts, and will then be happy with what you presented. Don't hinge success or failure on a placing. That's very important. But getting back to the genetics and the aesthetics, that's the reality. You can be as dialed in, shredded, all your body part, but then someone rocks up like Phil Heath. You're just going to lose. That's it. You're
just got that advantage.
Yeah, it's just they're put together better than you. Ronnie Coleman's like, okay, I'm not even going to go on stage. I'm just going to go sit in the back. I'm not even going to go out. I'm clearly, but again, that's if you're focusing on winning. So it's we all want to win. It's great, but always the best you can be at that point in time. And if you've done that, then it's a successful preparation and a successful competition, independent of the placings.
So touching on that point about people saying, people who train and then, I could do that. I could pump some steroids and go hard for a year or two. And
I'll be on the Olympia stage.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so this kind of misconception, right?
Yeah. They could be, but we don't know.
Maybe.
But generally, no.
But you hear it. You hear it with people all the time. You hear it in jiu-jitsu a lot. So jiu-jitsu is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And steroids are rife in jiu-jitsu, right? And they're used obviously for performance enhancement. But a lot of it is guys are sustaining and girls sustaining really nasty injuries. So using performance enhancing drugs allows them just to keep training and keep competing, even though they don't have tendons, ligaments in their knees, whatever. But you hear this thing where people, you'll see the people who are winning the top competitions and doing amazing stuff, and some of them are fucking jacked, right? Some of them not so much, but some of them really are. And then you hear a lot of people be like, but he's fucking juicing, it almost like it devalues the whole.
Yeah, it's not like they're training or anything.
That's right. It's like he's just pumping a needle and then turns up to a comp and wins. So, and I being so in the jiu-jitsu realm, I know more about this shit than anyone else, right? In this conversation, I know way less shit, right? But but my point is people have this misconception about drug use and about how it can just give someone this huge advantage. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, look, it again, context, it does certainly allow, more return on investment, I guess. You sort of have an improved recovery. These are all generally speaking, improved ability for training recovery, so you can generally do a bit more training. Now, is it the drug that's doing it, or is it the fact that you're just doing more of what you do anyway? And it's just doing, if you could do more of what you do, you'd probably get better as well. So it's sort of multifactorial, how, and again, what type of PED, performance enhancing drug, you gravitate towards. And this is by no means am I an expert in any way, shape or form. So I want to throw that out there. These are just, I guess, my thoughts on discussions that I've had with those, Broderick Chavez, the evil genius. Look him up. He does have a member's site if you're interested in all that type of stuff. And, but yeah, it's definitely going to enhance a lot of things, but it's still going to come down to, your genetic disposition as to whether you get a lot out of the drugs or not so much out of the drugs. And the thing is, some get use drugs and they have really profound growth and changes, whereas others will use drugs and you can't even tell they use drugs. They don't get much stronger and they don't really look any bigger. So it's hugely individual specific and how someone will respond. One of the things that makes a successful athlete on drugs is the fact that they tolerate the drugs well. They don't get any side effects, whereas someone else get a lot of side effects because they have generally all, we're talking about anabolics, I suppose, but they all have anabolic and androgenic effects. The androgenic effects sometimes are nervous system related, so we want those, move faster, more coordination. Think of a young boy going through puberty, they start producing testosterone, all of a sudden they can stop throwing like a girl and they throw like a guy. They can jump things, they can ride skateboards, they can ride bikes, they start surfing. Well, that's probably in part to do with, the improved motor learning from testosterone being far higher in the body. But hugely individual specific and tolerance of the drugs is another really big component to it, where some can seemingly take the drugs and not really get any negative side effects, just all the positive side effects, the positive effects, I guess. It depends who you're looking at, side effects, positive or negative, it depends. Context, a hairy face and deepening of the voice for a girl, probably side effects, but to use the example of a boy going through puberty, that's what we want. We want to get some hair on the face and I want to sound like a man now, so let me have those seemingly side effects of testosterone and steroids. So yeah, definitely in a general sense, there's improved ability to build muscle, improved ability to recover from the workouts. And then, there's then nervous system related benefits, which obviously influences performance. And within the world of PEDs and testosterone and anabolic androgenic steroids is they all upregulate muscle protein synthesis to some degree. So you're going to be able to build muscle and recover a little better, certainly from training. But then they have different classes within that, and some will add more water weight and volume and training capacity. Others won't add that so much, but they'll add more nervous system and strength related performance. So again, if you're in fight sports, jiu-jitsu, you don't want to go up a weight class, but you want to get super strong, then you would be selective about what sort of compounds you would use. And that's a science in itself, and those that have a lot of experience with that, power to them. So yeah, like within the world of PEDs, it's there's lots of variety as well, and you'd pick and choose accordingly if that was your thing, to improve performance. But certainly definitely from a recovery from injury type scenario, and peptides are, I think in the US for sport they're banned, but certainly in Australia they're becoming more regulated. But you could order peptides online up until just recently. I don't know if it's just that's harder to do, but in the US, I'm quite sure that you can just order them online, but not for professional sports athletes. They're still they're banned on the WADA, ASADA banned substance. Performance enhancing substances. So, but certainly from a recovery capacity, things that increase your growth hormone production, the growth hormone secretagogues, you can use those and produce more growth hormone, which is going to enhance recovery. And, if bones are broken, these types of things, combination of anabolics and growth promoting peptides or growth hormone itself could certainly enhance recovery as well. So, yeah, like if, a professional athlete, they bust themselves up and they're back in the game pretty quick, they could be, again, genetically blessed with recovery, but there may well be something under the hood that's going on. But, it's hard to say. You got to take it at face value until, they're proven otherwise, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, without going into detail, just sort of touching on that topic of performance-enhancing drugs, definitely ability to build muscle, but then enhanced recovery capacity. But beyond that, depending on which compounds you choose, can have different effects on more for performance. Some maybe sometimes it's size. You just want ones that put a lot of size on because you need to be bigger in a strongman competition. The more weight you're moving around, the better type thing. So yeah. On the from a simple perspective. Just to finish that point, nothing comes for free. Be aware, everyone's sort of like, oh, if I took drugs, X, Y, Z. It's like, everything has side effects. There's always a price to pay, whether you pay it now or in years' time. So that's, you got to weigh up the pros and cons and whether you're prepared to pay that price. And what the price is, sometimes it's obvious, like suppression of natural production. Okay, I can weigh that. Well, then it might give you fertility issues, and 5 years' time you want to produce babies, and it's like, oh, you have a lot of trouble and you have to go on IVF. Well, that could have been because you were using performance-enhancing drugs now. So, that would be the other thing I would sort of throw out there in a blanket. It's cool, and yes, it will enhance all those things, but understand that there is always a price. Some pay a far bigger price than others, unfortunately. But that's just the way it is. You need to be prepared for that if that's the direction that you want to go. It's a great point. I think, it seems in the, from what I can see, guys pushing weights at commercial gyms and stuff, it does seem like performance-enhancing drugs are probably more widely used now in general population. I think so, yeah. Yeah, back in the day, man, it was just like the meatheads at the bodybuilders. You'd see those guys juiced up, and then no one recreationally, but now, like every festival, my God, it's like a physique competition. The physique's there. They would win shows. You're handing out cards. Dubois. Yeah. But the guys are just looking, and they were literally peak for festivals. That's a legitimate, instead of a comp or a shoot. Well, that was Ziz, wasn't it? Who brought that about? Yeah, man. Yeah, rest in peace. But yeah, like it's, I think it's I agree with your point. It's far more widespread, and even girls, you hear girls in conversations like, oh yeah, I'm using this, using that. It's like, okay. I mean, once upon a time, girls would never even consider using, anabolics. Like now it's, in some demographics and certain circles, it's just so they look more muscular and they look good in a miniskirt when they go out on the weekend, or at the festival again. Yeah. So yeah, it's a changing, and it's interesting because the research, this is new. We don't know, by say we pretend to be a research scientist, but the experts don't know what sort of effect this will have in 20, 30 years time with recreational use of anabolics. And it's really never going to be a situation where they're going to start, like, ethically, okay, we're going to run a cycle, we're going to juice you up on this and we're going to see what side effects. We'll do it for a year. So they're never going to have a lot of research. So there's all anecdotal evidence that, a young man dies of heart attack on the field, suspected drug use, but it's never, if you take that, you're going to have a heart attack. It's always
indirect correlation.
Yeah, so it's hard to say if you do this is going to happen. There's a few absolutes, definitely. Suppression of natural production for men, so your natural production will diminish over time. So that's obviously, there's a few absolutes that will happen, but beyond that, it's all sort of, they sort of see this, they think it's to do with this, but there's no, and that's why I think it's not necessarily the implications long term and the effects are not really, because there's nothing concrete that this will happen. This might happen, it's individual specific, it's duration related, dose related. It's like, okay, there's no definitive, yes, this will happen, so I'm not going to do it. So yeah, it's a strange world out there at the moment, that's for sure.
Would you say, so on that, say you've got people who are using such substances and people who are not, and general population, right? People, they're doing the same thing, right? They're trying to get a bit bigger, look a bit better, lose a bit of fat. Mm-hmm. Do the rules change much between those two parties, or do things just amplify a little bit for people who are using substances?
Yeah, like you generally, yes. If they were using supplements, you would that statement, more return on investment, is sort of a good way to it's not like you're sort of, I mean, you are going to get above and beyond what you could get arguably naturally. So yes, like you would get to potentially your genetic potential far quicker using supplementation, I guess, where, unenhanced or natural, you may still get there, but it might take quite a bit longer. That's one way to look at it. But then also it might take you above and beyond. And a lot will consider ordering supplements online and doing these things when they have actually been training a while and they've maximized what they feel is their genetic limitations to the environment that they're in, and then they're, for whatever reason, and, it's the type of thing, like, I want to play sport, and everyone encourages it. Oh yeah, well, let's take you to practice. You want to kick the ball, let's get you a soccer ball. I want to look jacked. Oh no, you got something wrong. Your body just more be content. Like you can't. No, don't pursue that. That's wrong or whatever. But it's like, well, no, this is what for whatever reason, I want to change the way I look. I like a more muscular physique, and that's what I want to do. But yet it's demonized. And Damon Hayhow from Recomp, I've had this conversation with him, and I think he might have spoke about it on his podcast we had with him, but. He put it so well in that I just like looking jacked. You like looking like dad bod. That's cool. I like having six pack.
So I'm about to have a child.
Oh, mate, Ty over there.
Yeah. Chubby Ty.
You're content doing that. That's awesome. But I like to, weigh 15 kilos over my normal weight, and I like to have a six pack. I like to be strong in the gym. And there's all sort of this stigma that's associated with it, that it's wrong and you should be content with how you look and all it. Well, cool, like you are, that's excellent. But this is what I like to do. I like to train, I like the structure, whatever. So it's really, someone's decision to train and do all those things is completely theirs. It doesn't necessarily have to be driven by eating disorders or body dysmorphia or some sort of psychological issue, or you got aggression issues, whatever, all these things that come along with, training and meathead at the gym. And it's like, man, yeah, I think it's far more widely accepted now that, the training and staying in shape. But whatever the reason is, if an individual chooses to improve their body composition or put muscle mass, increase their muscle mass, then that is what it is. And if they want to do that, that's their decision. I respect that. And that is an environment that they then may start looking at supplementation. For whatever reason, they're still not content, then I can sort of relate to potentially using, and assuming they're not at, elite sports and athletes and they're not drug cheats and all that type of stuff, but I can relate to an individual pursuing that if they're still, the quality of life goes up, they're happier, they're, more energetic, they recover better, they can do all the training they want to do, they're just a better version of themselves. And often, like some compounds, there is an associated aggression, which can be great for a BJJ, get increased training aggression and get in the ring and fight. So certain compounds, definitely in that performance-enhancing drug world, can enhance that effect, and it could be good for training, just doing all the training that you have to do, definitely. But there seems to be this, when you look at testosterone replacement therapy or testosterone therapy, which again is a taboo, you're taking steroids. It's like, well, I don't produce testosterone, like you do, and you're fine on your level. I don't, and I feel like crap, potentially. And you get increased aggression, and if you go on testosterone therapy and all these types of things, it's like, well, what do you think is going to be the more aggressive individual, or emotional or erratic? A guy that doesn't produce enough testosterone, he's not feeling like a man, pretty much, because you don't have that inherent testosterone at a level that you get all the benefits. Your cognition is down, your thought clarity and these types of things is compromised. Your libido, you don't have a libido, so you don't feel like a dude because you're not interested in your partner. So that puts a strain on the relationship. You beat yourself up about that. You might be overly emotional because you might have a higher estrogen than because your testosterone. Testosterone ratio to estrogen could be out of whack. There could be a multitude of emotions that come along with that, and just unhappy with things. Your day-to-day energy, recovery capacity to training, all these things can be affected. I think that individual might be more moody and more likely to get in fights and arguments with wives and beat up partners and all these types of things than someone that supplements some testosterone, albeit, through a doctor and monitored. But they're going to be they're going to increase libido, they're going to feel better, headspace is going to be better, they're going to have more energy, confident, exactly, feel like a man should, day to day. So I think of those two situations, the one that was on testosterone therapy is actually going to be the one, and I'm speaking for a personal experience here as well, and I am on testosterone therapy, monitored through a doctor. So yeah, I can completely relate, and it was a life-changing type situation for me, which was a few years ago now. But it is becoming, like in the US, I think testosterone replacement therapy is a little more acceptable, but it's a lot of the doctors apprehensive about tackling it here, and certain doctors will specialize in it. But yeah, it's super common, men with low testosterone values, and be it the environment that we live in, the toxicity, we could sort of hypothesize the various reasons, but for whatever reason, it does seem to be quite widespread. And one of the things I do with athletes I coach, Joey, is that I run blood work, and a lot of the athletes I coach are actually other PTs. And the amount of guys that I've actually referred on to the doctor that I see and that are now getting treated for low testosterone is astonishing. Like there's legitimate lots of them. So it's super common, and something that really shouldn't be frowned upon. And in time, hopefully, it's more accessible for men, and especially in an era where mental health and these types of things are so prevalent, and focusing on it. Well, I dare say if you give them a shot of test a week, they're going to all be feeling pretty good, and would have far less suicides, and everyone would be far happier.
It's an interesting case.
Yeah, we'll get a petition going.
So on that, let's drill down into the. Well, actually, before I want to, because I do want to get you to cover the basics of this realm, right? Building muscle, losing fat.
Yep, sure.
The juicy stuff that you probably find yourself repeating to folks every fucking day. Simple rules, that we've all heard before, but things that need to be reiterated.
Sure.
But I wanted to ask, I was having a conversation with a mate of mine yesterday who's was a CrossFitter in the past.
That doesn't make him a bad person. That's fine.
That's right.
We'll accept him.
Yeah. And he's kind of evolving out of that a little bit. He's finding, he's digging sort of the movement stuff and this combination of things, and looking at it from a more holistic perspective.
Yep.
But we're talking about it, and how even amongst all of that, I think I was telling him you were coming on the show, and he's like, man, it's so funny, like with all the stuff I do in my training and all the the handstands and the mobility and the health, and he goes, I still just want to be jacked.
Yeah,
and,
who doesn't?
Right? And this was, for me too. I'm like always like I was very in the movement realm for a period there. If you're in the movement thing, it's all about the movement apparently. But under the,
muscle mass probably not going to help you be less movement.
Yeah, there's probably a point of diminishing returns. However, a lot of it's very strength based. And a lot of it is also, there's an aesthetic that goes with it.
Yeah.
And, man, you look at the guys in there, they're jacked, right? They're not all of them, but it's obviously valued by the individuals in that community. However, no one talks about it because culturally it's not what we're interested in.
Yeah.
Right? Again,
well, that's stigma again, isn't it?
It is. And it's this push against bodybuilding, because there's always been a push against bodybuilding because bodybuilding was the first kind of dogma in the fitness thing, I think, right? You look at guys like Paul Chek. He's the guy for functional, holistic, whatever. But the guy's jacked, right? Like year round. I don't know how old he is now. So my point is like we all, not that it's the main emphasis for everybody's training, right? But it plays this part, and everybody likes to look a bit muscular, and
have a bit of tone and definition.
Yeah. What's with that?
Look, I think I think our society has a lot of influence on that. Like everywhere we look, there's billboards, and so I think there's a lot of standards put out there that we sort of see as the norm, and certainly Instagram. And it's like now we're seeing more and more that wait a second, they're using Photoshop on the abs, and there's all sorts of things. But whether that's the reality or not, or whether what we're seeing on the billboards and advertising and Instagram is actually the real thing, it is still exposure to what we perceive to be the norm. So I think there's this sort of gold standard of what a physique should look like in general, which is arguably not really a true reflection on what physiques actually are. I mean, a lot of the time they're photo shoot ready, or they're occasionally you'll read a piece where different these Insta celebrities or people that run a business, guys and girls that run a business based on aesthetics and looking a certain way, and what they actually do to maintain it. It's like doing a comp prep all year round. It's pretty challenging for anyone to do that, but it's what they do to stay in shape, to have the business that they do. So it's not really a realistic image to try and achieve. I think a lot of the images on social media and what we see around us. So I think that may well be influencing why we all want to sort of look a certain way, because that is what we perceive to be, well, that's the standard. We should have a six-pack and look good. But really, I don't think that's attainable for, like, if your listeners are probably like, yeah, I would like that. Well, okay. The guys and girls that I coach, some have abs all year round, and they're less defined in the off season, but most don't. There's no abs, there's fat there, and their body fat isn't very high, but they don't have abdominal definition. Like, what I think most people are looking for is actually that for men, that's the last place to come in. So they got to get effing peeled, then they get their abs. So if you were to comprehend what's actually involved to achieve that look that they think is normal, and well, that's what I just want a six-pack. Oh, just a six-pack. All right. Well, let me explain what's involved.
That's the pinnacle.
Yeah, and that is like almost the hardest to get a six-pack, because we can't spot reduce body fat. It's like, I just want to get a six-pack here, but I don't mind if my legs and arms aren't as lean. Well, it don't work like that. Really it doesn't. Some do. Some are just similar body fat all over the body, but usually for men, sorry guys, that's the last place for women, the butt and the thighs, that's the last place to dial in. So I think, having a realistic expectation, yes, you probably, like, I will also throw out there shouldn't, unless there's an underlying health concern or some sort of genetic predisposition, everyone should be able to get a six-pack at some stage. Will it take a lot longer for a variety of reasons for some individuals? Absolutely. Can some do it far easier? Yes. Can some maintain a six-pack? Yes. Genetically, they may well have a predisposition to staying very lean, but then you look at their lifestyle, they're, very, very consistent with everything. They got a big activity every day. They're a builder and on the tools. They burn a lot of calories. So there could be a ton of reasons why they stay in shape. But everyone should be able to get that six-pack definition that they're after, the abdominal definition, that muscular look. It's just whether, the reality is it's not attainable all year round. Like, you can't maintain.
Kind of unsustainable?
Unsustainable, exactly. Like, and I often get this with the athletes I coach. It's like, oh, hey, coach, I'm going to maintain this afterwards. And it's like, well, the last 2 preps you didn't, but okay, cool, no worries. Well, let's just do the show.
Because I feel like I look so awesome.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna keep these abs. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, you're doing 90 minutes of cardio on 1,400 calories at the moment, training 7 days a week. So you're gonna keep doing that afterwards, are you? Oh, no, I can't do that. Okay, well, how on earth, if that is the environment that produces the six-pack and the abdominal definition and the muscularity that you want to keep, what magically is going to happen post-comp where you can maintain it not doing that? It's like The Biggest Loser. They go into the house, they lose the body fat, they go out of the house, they go back to the same things they were doing before, and they gain the fat. Oh my God, The Biggest Loser doesn't work. It's like, well, no, you're in a house where there was nothing in the fridge that you could pig out on. You had a trainer every day. You got told to wake up at a certain time. You were consistent with all your meal times. So in that environment, it produced the result of losing all that body fat. But if you were to replicate that environment out of the house, then you would maintain it, but they don't. They go back to doing what they were doing and they gain body fat. And it's like, mind blown. I don't know why, it didn't
Show's
work.
lying to us.
Yeah, it didn't work. It's like, no, you went back to doing what you were doing before. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. That is one you could throw out there. Like, how on earth, like, something's got to change for you to produce a different result. So I think maintaining a lean physique and certainly a muscular physique is absolutely attainable. Some can do it easier than others, but I think be realistic with your expectations. But to answer your actual question, I think it's just that we get exposed to all these images everywhere we look. Even I succumb to it, I'm looking at, geez, I should probably lean out a little bit. Look at these guys. I said, no, well, hold on, no. I'm not in a prep. I'm content. I'm in decent shape. That's fine for me right now. But I have competed a few times, so I certainly have had the very, very lean conditioning. So once you've been there and you know what's required to get there, I occasionally get asked, hey man, when are you going to compete again? It's like, oh my God, OMG, like, it takes me about 8 months to get ready and my world stops for 8 months. If I ever got that option to stop everything for 8 months, I probably would. So I don't even know if I would ever compete again, simply because it's such a monumental task for me to get ready. It's I think it's just what we're exposed to, man. We just see it everywhere, so we all want that. But it's also, we know that it's healthier, being leaner. All your health markers will improve to a point, being in shape. So there's tons of other physiological benefits to it. Wins on so many levels, being in shape and keeping your body fat level at a respectable level.
And respectable being, I'm guessing there is a point, obviously, where it inverts and it becomes, okay, now you're in like poor health because you're not poor health, but
like I got a few mentors that, like, I'm always learning is one of my hashtags on Instagram, and I have mentors like you mentioned, Broderick Chavez. I still talk with him weekly, so I mentor with him weekly. Menno Henselmans, if anyone, give this guy arguably one of the smartest dudes on the planet when it comes to body composition and training and everything else. Mentor with him regularly as well, every fortnight. It was weekly pre-COVID, but I've had to streamline things a little post-COVID. But and then I'm always consulting with other pro bodybuilders. I'm always learning, and I spoke to Menno about this, and he sort of, if you think about it, it's like, okay, there may be like that extreme end where you are very low body fat that it sort of starts becoming, but it's a very acute point at the end. Generally, you're still, even though you're doing all that training and everything else, and testosterone levels tend to decline. That is one way that the body can lose muscle mass, because less testosterone, there will be less muscle mass. So the body wants to lose muscle. It doesn't want to keep muscle because you've got no food coming in, and very high output. Well, high output weighing this weight, this doesn't make sense. So ramp down testosterone, you'll lose muscle mass. So the body will fight you at every opportunity. So yes, there is a point where, hormones and stuff are going to be compromised, I guess. But you have a look at, your insulin sensitivity, you have a look at your cholesterol values, you have a look at all the other cardiovascular system. All these things are upregulated. You're healthy. There are a few things that are arguably, you wouldn't want to sustain that, but compare it to someone that's obese. even with all that training, with declining testosterone levels, your blood markers and internal physiology, what's happening under the hood, to quote B. Chavez, is still far healthier than someone that's overweight and has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, poor insulin sensitivity, etc., chronic inflammation. All these things are far more unhealthy and more conducive to health problems than the training and the lower testosterone and the different, the high cortisol levels from doing everything that you're doing in a caloric deficit. So yes, I would agree, and this is a conversation I referenced Mano because it's something we discussed. I was saying what you were saying. Oh yeah, but it becomes unhealthy at the end. And he said, well, you look at blood markers and everything else. Yes, a few are trending downward, unhealthy long term, but everything else is far better. So it's we could argue psychologically it's probably very not a good place to be in towards the end of prep, being obsessing about food and all the other things that come along with it. But a lot of physiology will actually be better the leaner you are. So yeah, it's context and how you look at it, I suppose, would to answer that question. But definitely some things are trending downward. You wouldn't want to stay in that environment for an extended period, definitely.
Well put. Well put. All right, take me to the fundamental laws now. Tell me
for
about
building muscle.
Building muscle.
Yeah, I think there's many. I think anything will work for a period, and that's what I always tell anyone that asks about. I'm doing this program. What do you think? I said, well, it's great until it stops working. Should I change this? Well, it depends. There's a lot of scenarios where that's my response. It's more, I guess, understanding the fundamentals, what to change when things stop working. When you've been doing a program, but you have started to plateau, what variables do we manipulate? Where do we put thought and consideration? And how do we get the most return on investment, I think, is where if you understand those basic fundamentals, where it can be applied, but really anything, you have a hiatus from training, so you obviously train a lot, but say you go have a month off, come back, it doesn't matter what you do, it's all going to work. You're going to gain muscle, but then that's going to work for a point, and then what do you do from there? Or what do you do while training to continue progression, I guess, in regards to increasing muscle mass? So I think again, before we went to air, the big thing I said was, I create an environment that's consistent and structured, and I think those that are diligent with applying themselves to the process get the best results over time, and you get good data, and you can choose what to manipulate, what goes up, what goes down, what do we change. So I think the first sweeping statement I would say in regards to building muscle mass is just pick a program, be consistent with it, and I suppose we'll cover the back end. So this is assuming that your sleep's good. That's not a problem. And these are things you would look at if everything else that I'm going to articulate my thoughts on, and there's probably many others, but I'm going to give you a few thoughts on what I think in a training environment is going to produce an environment for hypertrophy. But this is under the assumption that everything else, the back-end lifestyle is all set up that's sufficient to drive hypertrophy. But that would be things like, are you sleeping enough? If you're not sleeping, that's known to be compromise your ability to gain muscle mass and lose fat mass, and the percentage of how much body weight you lose, how much is muscle and how much is fat, will be influenced by whether you're sleeping more or less too. So you may well be losing weight, but a lot more of it could be muscle if you're having poor sleep. So if you want the weight that you're losing to be predominantly fat, then you probably want to get a good night's sleep. So sleep, there's nothing wrong with your testosterone levels. You're eating enough protein, you get that minimum protein target. And
what's your
again, if you wanted the hard facts, you could probably say 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kg body weight per day. Mm-hmm. That can be split anywhere from 3 to, how many meals you want, but probably less than 3 meals. You probably don't want to go for hypertrophy, because there is an onus to continue amino acids hitting the bloodstream to fuel that elevated muscle protein synthesis. So any fasting period is probably not going to give you the best environment for sustaining that growth that you initiated from the training session. So 1.6 to 1.8 grams, but you can just round it up 2 grams if you want to err on the side of caution and make sure you got plenty. So someone that's 100 kilos would eat about 200 grams of protein a day, and that should be enough. Now, there may be situations where you might increase that a little or decrease it a little. Back end of prep, using PEDs can also influence it, depending on what your thought process is with that, with greater less muscle breakdown on PEDs, so you can get away with less protein, believe it or not, and feed additional calories more to carbohydrates that could invariably improve training performance. Or you can increase it for an athlete on PEDs simply because muscle protein synthesis upregulates on PEDs. So do you accommodate a higher...
I don't know if we got any listeners who pump PEDs.
Yeah, no. So I was just sort of painting a picture where there's lots of back-ended things that can influence whether you have the ability to grow or not. So assuming that your sleep, nutrition, everything else, stress is controlled, no chronic inflammation, these types of things, you're not of ill health, no underlying health disorders, and we're just training. So I think anything consistent will work initially. Then when it stops working, you want to basically think about things like what's happening with the training that you are doing, like your work sets. So let's assume that you've done warm-up sets. What do your work sets look like? What's happening in those work sets? How many times are you training the body part over the week? How many work sets are you giving the body part over the week? And then, what are you manipulating over time to keep the program being effective? So a quick synopsis on basics. When you are training for hypertrophy, I would recommend a twice a week frequency of body part. So train each body part 2 times per week. I would look at between 10 and 20 work sets, and work sets are sets that are taken close to the point of true muscle failure. So not volitional failure where, this set's getting a bit hard, I might stop now. It's like legitimate true muscle failure. And those that are a little more experienced with training sort of know when they're getting close to failure. And for those that are less experienced, they may not know. But basically, you'll see the concentrics of the push or pull of the repetitions start to slow, maybe techniques start to become a little compromised. That is probably you are getting close to true muscle failure, and independent of rep range. So it could be a high rep range or a low rep range, a heavier load, low reps, or a lighter load, high reps. It doesn't matter, but if whatever the set is, for it to be a conducive set to hypertrophy, it just needs to go close to the point of true muscle failure. So that's the first caveat that I would say. Work sets have to be taken. There seems to be this magical 5 reps before you hit failure that are the most conducive to hypertrophy, and all the reps you do before that are basically setting up the necessary fatigue within the muscle fibers to get the full spectrum of muscle fibers recruited in the working muscle group, but they only sort of come to the party if the set is taken close to failure. So if that is the case, and there are these sort of effective reps, we'll call them, towards the back end of the set, if you never go into failure, you're never going to get those stimulation of those high threshold motor units and the necessary muscle fibers that are more conducive to growth, the high threshold, larger type 2 muscle fibers, because you never take it close to the point of failure. So that could be one thing that someone's not doing. They're just not training hard enough. So a work set, the definition will be a set that's taken close to failure. The amount of sets, I've said a couple of times a week frequency, the amount of sets per body part per week, a good rule of thumb is between 10 and 20 work sets. So over the course of the week for quads, if it's a body part you want to focus on, then it might be close to 20 sets. Twice per week, you do 10 each session, 5 sets of leg press, 5 sets of leg extensions twice per week. There's your workout done, that's legs. Quads, and then hamstrings, back, chest would all be factored in as well. But 10 to 20 work sets over the week. All those work sets are taken close to the point of failure. I would recommend a variety of rep ranges, basically plenty of research to show you that you can use heavier loads and low reps or light loads and high reps. Both do the same thing, it's just different ways to get to the same thing. And the thing we're talking about is sufficient mechanical tension on the muscle fibers involved in the movement. So to get that tension, if the load is light, you need to create more fatigue. So the slow, easily excitable smaller fibers will start doing the set with a light load. And then as they fatigue, the high threshold mode units will be recruited, those type 2 fibers. They get stimulated, great, effective reps. Those last 5, we go close to the point of failure, excellent. That 20 rep set with the load that we used there was a set that is going to drive hypertrophy. And that would be one of the 10 to 20 sets that I'm talking about. The other end of the spectrum, we do a heavier load. We only get 6 reps. Well, those 6 reps, and we get close to the point of failure, those high threshold mode units were pretty much recruited from the very first rep. The smaller slow twitch muscle fibers just don't have the ability to generate force for that load because we chose a heavier load, and we did 6 reps. So that set is, again, one of those 10 to 20 sets, and that is basically what you need to do, I think, when we're maximizing a program that's maximizing hypertrophy. Have some low rep, higher load training and some high rep, lower load training, because each may have slightly different anabolic pathways that may result in an increase in muscle protein synthesis, because that's all we're doing. We're creating an elevation in muscle protein synthesis for the body part. Then we sleep, eat protein, et cetera, The synthetic rate will peak. A couple of days later, it will come back down to baseline, and guess what? That's when we hit it the second time for the week. Second time, we do the high rep work. Early in the week, I like to program heavier loads. Back end of the week, lighter loads. Hit train it again. We get an elevation in muscle protein synthesis. Comes back down to baseline. Higher rep work is generally more fatiguing, more muscle damaging. So towards the back end of the week, have a few more days rest. Come into it again on Monday. Boom, high rep work, high load, low rep work again, and repeat the process over and over and over. 10 to 20 work sets. All work sets go to close to the point of failure. Low reps and high reps, for example, 8 reps and 20 reps. They're rep ranges that I use for the athletes I coach.
8 reps being the low range, 20 being high, yep.
So the load that will allow you to only get 8 reps and a load that will allow you to only get 20 reps. And then basically set up the back end, the environment, the lifestyle, and everything to be conducive for hypertrophy. You can keep the movements the same. You know, think of your PT toolbox. You don't want to have tons of different exercises. Like, keep it pretty basic. Think about the function of the muscle, and that will dictate how many exercises you will need. Deltoid, well, we got front delt, side delt, rear delt. Probably need 3 different exercises for that. Although front delt, you do a lot with pressing, so probably don't worry about that. But certainly side delt and rear delt, we probably want to have exercises exclusively for those two. Hamstrings, hip extensors, knee flexors, probably want to have 2 exercises there. Calves, gastroc, soleus, probably want to have 2 exercises. So think about what the muscles actually do to dictate how many exercises you will need. And then don't get overly caught up with variety. Exercises, I don't think, as long as you're getting, these are what I tell the athletes I coach. We want to have a full range of motion. We want to use good exercise technique. We want to use a controlled tempo. We want to take sufficient rest periods to focus on performance, and we want to make sure there's no acute pain or discomfort while we're training. So they're the sweeping points, the golden rules of a hypertrophy-specific program the athletes I work with. So as long as they adhere to those guidelines, then they should be fine by way of hypertrophy. And what they're looking for over time, the exercises are, we as individuals tend to have emotional. Oh, I got a back squat. Back squat's the king. And well, no, you don't have to back squat. You can leg press. It's just fine. Far less risk to reward with the leg press. You're going to get great growth with the quads. I don't back squat any athletes I coach. Okay, and I put them on stage with huge quads. So again, right tool for the right job. Again, if they're a powerlifter, probably want to squat. So again, specificity. But don't get caught up with the dogma of these are best exercise. Got to have this, got to have that. Think about what the muscle actually does. Choose exercises accordingly. Think about exercises that have the least amount of chance of injury. That way you can take them through, lower rep ranges and higher rep ranges, and like a high rep back squat, 20 reps. What do you think the body part's going to get challenged the most? Lower back. Quads will be fine. Stick them on the leg press, you won't have that issue. So again, some thought behind exercise selection, but don't get too caught up in emotion. Muscles don't have emotions. We do. We tend to like lots of variety. Muscles don't care. They're just going to, you're going to contract the muscle, moving the load from A to B. So think about those types of things when we do choose exercises. You don't want to play all your cards at once. So I recommend programs will go anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. Too short a program, you don't really have the opportunity. It's not broken, so you don't need to fix it. stick with the program for about 6 weeks, and that way you will sort of get maximum benefit from the exercises, and you will actually be able to see some progression over the 6 weeks. Anything shorter than that, 4-3, absolutely fine. You just may not be able to quantify whether you're actually getting growth over that time because you change it. It could just be motor learning, maybe neural adaptations over the 3 weeks, and you change the exercise. Did you get any actual structural changes? Was there any contractile protein built over that period? I don't really know because I changed it every 3 weeks. 6 weeks, okay, any neural adaptations, motor learning, that's going to be sorted in the first week or two. Then if we're starting to see progression over time, the load's going up, then it's probably a result of contractile protein, not nervous system improvements outside of a complete beginner. Complete beginners don't know how to do anything, so they're going to get huge amount of strength increase due to motor learning. They just learn how to back squat, learn how to bench press. But for the rest of us that are a little bit more advanced, yeah, I think longer style programs, it's not broken, don't fix it, leave with it. Check the, I like changes every 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, that's just emotional choices, take psychology out of it. Although we do have to come to the party and consider what someone likes to enjoy. So I get, you meet somewhere in the middle, but 6 to 8 weeks, change it, hit the muscle group from a slightly different angle. Same thing again, run through that 10 to 20 sets, work sets to failure, low rep, high rep. Full range of motion, good exercise technique, A control, tempo, rest periods focusing on performance, and of course no acute pain or discomfort at all times. And what we're looking for is rep range is static. I don't use any advanced training techniques. I keep it super simple, straight set. And what I want to see the athletes I coach achieve is progression over time. Understand, like, there's this thing, progressive overload's needed for hypertrophy. It's like, well, here's another thought. Progressive overload is hypertrophy. So if you're seeing progressive overload, you're seeing hypertrophy. You've had adaptations, and we're seeing the adaptations in the data we're recording. So again, if you don't record data, if you don't set up environments where you can take out all the murky waters, all the noise, keep it simple, straight sets. If I start, 4 sets at 100 kilos week 1, and then I'm doing for 10 reps, and I'm doing at the end of week 5, 4 sets for 115 kilos for 10 reps, the nervous system's not going to improve to get you 15 kilos on your bench press for someone that's intermediate or advanced. The only way that's happening is if I've built muscle. So we can use these training programs to some degree quantify that we're actually seeing growth, but understand when you focus on progressive overload or you see progressive overload, that's either the load increasing over time in the same environment. So we can't change reps and then see load increase. Well, it's a different environment. You went from 8 reps to 6 reps. Of course you get stronger. So you got to keep reps static, keep the environment static. And you are simple program design. You have 2 rep ranges, 8 and 20 reps, like I mentioned. For example, the cue that I give the athletes, what I want to see is more reps than the week prior at a given load. So last week they did, say, that example, 4 reps, 4 sets of 100 kilos on the bench press. For 10 reps, they got 10 at 100, then they got 8 and 7 and 7. Well, if they were 8 rep range, we'll use the 8. So they got 8, then they got 6, 6, 5. Okay. Then the following week they got, if they did 8, they would have went up. But I'll give you the other point in a second. But say the following week they got 8, 7, 7, 6. That's progression.
Increase in reps.
Increase in reps within the rep target that we've allocated. Following week they get 8, 8, 8, 8. All 8's great. Then let's go up in weight. So it depends how you cue the load progressions, but they could be getting more reps than they did the week prior. That's progression. I'm happy with that. The other thing that I cue them to do is if they hit a rep target, so they do 8 early in the week or 20 reps, then they automatically increase the load on the next set. So by doing that simple cue, because the $1 million question is...
On the next set or the next workout?
Next set. So it doesn't matter where the set falls. If you happen to hit an 8 rep target or a 20 rep target on the 2 different days for quads, for example, then you increase the load on the next set. Smallest increment possible. You don't have to put on 20 kilos each side. It could be 2.5 kilos. It doesn't matter, but we're seeing progression. And by that simple cue, those 10 to 20 sets, now over time, they're going to get closer. And even if they got the volitional failure, close to true muscle failure, a bit mixed up, and they weren't actually near failure, we didn't get those effective reps, those 5 magical reps, it's not just 5, it would be more than that, but let's assume it is close towards the back end of the set. Then if they keep adding this load, if they do hit an 8 or a 20, then eventually they're always going to get closer and closer and closer to the point of true muscle failure. So that simple cue, that takes guesswork out of it. It's like, oh, I did 8 reps, but the last one was a bit squirrely, you know, I think I'll do that weight again and I'll go for another 8. It's like, you do 8 or 20, you go up on the next set is what I recommend. Still ultimately their choice. They choose when they increase loads. I never dictate what they have to do. I recommend you go up. It's up to you whether you take that on board. But if they do that, Joey, they're always going to be getting further and further into that 5 effective reps, and they're going to be closer and closer to the point of true muscle failure. And the way, you know, at first glance, it's like, oh my God, I got to go up every week. It's like, well, think of it like this. If everything's working, you need to go up every week for it to be the same environment because you're getting stronger. So now 100 kilos is not effective. You know, you're not close to the point of failure because you're stronger. So now you got to do 105 to get those effective reps. And then, you know, over time, then 105 isn't effective anymore. Now you got to go 110. So understand it's always the same environment. It's just that you're getting stronger over time. So you'll see the performance increase. You are seeing hypertrophy, and that's what I encourage. And very motivating and empowering for the athlete. It's like, wow, I'm actually building muscle. I can see it. I didn't lift this last week, and now I lifted it this week. This is unreal. In addition to checking skin folds, seeing how they are in the mirror, how shirts are fitting, whether they look pumped, all these things that we also use to gauge progression, we can actually see it firsthand in the data we're recording. So that's sort of some basic fundamentals and some concepts to get your head around. Really, really simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. I don't make it complicated. I make it really, and to the detriment of this is a boring workout. It's like, yeah, well, you know, you get bored, your muscles don't. Just keep doing it. And for my demographic, they're in prep for a physique show, so it's a little different. You would sort of adapt that and change it, working with Gen Pop, and maybe make the programs a little, maybe 5 weeks, a little bit quicker, but still looking at those key fundamentals, and they're what I think are relevant for hypertrophy over time. We want us to be seeing things change over time. Progressive overload by load going up over time in the same environment, or getting more reps over time within the rep ranges we've allocated. They are going to be quantifying as much as we can quantify without doing MRIs and, you know, all these types of things to see an increment of muscle mass. Because basically a bigger muscle is fundamentally, and again, basically it's not always, but a stronger muscle. So if we're seeing strength increase, we're undoubtedly gaining muscle mass.
Growing.
Yeah, more contractile, just more of those filaments, those myosin actin filaments, thicker, just cinching together. It sort of makes sense. Now, strength over time is always 2 parts. It's going to be morphological, contractile protein, size, but also neurological. So I get that. But again, if we're seeing someone that's not a beginner get these strength improvements over time, the nervous system, you can't learn how, these are dumb movements. And there's no disrespect to bodybuilders or, you know, people that, focusing on physique preparation, a bench press is not complicated. You know, a lunge is not complicated. Sitting in the leg press is not complicated. So it's not like, wow, you can learn to even better how to do a leg press. It's like, no, you put your feet up, go down and push back up. There's no complexity to it.
There's no skill acquisition.
There's no skill acquisition. So with that in mind, you know, when we do see this performance over time increase, it's probably unless you can think of something else, it's probably the result of you gaining muscle mass. And the flip side.
It's a great point.
So if we're not seeing it, then something's wrong. Why aren't we seeing it? Okay, let's have a look at sleep. Let's have a look at nutrition. Let's have a look at stress. Are you actually going close to the point of failure? Maybe you're just being a bitch in the gym and you need to suck it up and lift a little heavier. So again, there's many moving parts. But once we get that data, then we can start drawing conclusions. And that's what I love getting. It's data. I like just getting the numbers and then making rational decisions rather than guessing, if that makes sense. Same with everything else I do.
Makes perfect sense. Before I have a couple of things I want to ask about that. It's 10 to 11. What time do you have to go?
Whenever you have finished with me.
Okay, cool. So we'll wrap it up on the sooner side, but there's a couple of things I wanted to dig into there. So say you walked into our gym this morning and saw, you know, there's no machines, right?
Oh, that's a gym downstairs.
Yeah, it's a gym.
I thought it was just a stretching area. Yeah. Very well set up stretching area.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's mostly space, right?
Yep.
A bunch of free weights, no dumbbells, and the first thing to acknowledge, say for us, for our people training in this style of gym, is that we don't have the machines that allow you to simplify exercises in that way. So, so say when we do on leg strength, there's a barbell on your back, or there's a barbell on the front rack position, or, you're holding kettlebells or whatever it is.
Yep.
For someone training that style and then looking at this, okay, well, I want to build a bit of muscle, so I want to try and find some simple movement patterns where I can really get a few extra sets in, maybe after the class, take it to fatigue and help to elicit some growth.
Yep.
What might be a couple of your go-to, say, lower body exercises, upper body exercises?
I mean, it's now I threw the squats under the bus. Fantastic movement and tons of strength. Bodybuilding coaches, prep coaches will use back squats. Absolutely. With my programs, I like to keep exercises the same, and for that reason, usually now if they only have barbells, then I'd probably opt for not doing 20 reps, and I might keep reps a little lower for the back squat. So definitely, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape or form that certain exercises can't be used to grow muscle mass. I think I would get lynched if I dared suggest that a back squat won't build muscle mass or a leg press will build muscle mass better. It's just they're different tools to achieve that same outcome. So you could absolutely do a back squat, but I would be looking at yes, there are benefits to doing high rep work and low rep work, but it doesn't mean you have to do high rep work and low rep work. You could do middle rep work, 10 to 12s, and just keep it there. But you would still want to be seeing that progress over time. You still want to be taking the sets close to the point of failure. You still want to be hitting between 10 and 20 work sets. So I gave you a couple of examples, and I could articulate a little further. The low rep, high load training is great. You get the high threshold movements and the fast twitch muscle fibers recruited from the get-go. And compared to lighter load, where they sort of kick in and kick out, and they'll reluctantly come to the party at the end of the set due to metabolic stress and fatigue, if you were to pin me down and say, well, what is better for getting the high threshold motor unit and those big muscle fibers recruited? I'd say, well, heavy load training. It is going to give you superior. You get stronger doing that. And if you're stronger to add to, greater a load being used for the high rep work in 3 months time, probably. So if you were to push me, I would certainly say if you could only do one, maybe lean towards the higher load training and, 80 to 85% plus 1RM is that, and then the lighter load would be around that 30% to 40% 1RM. So you understand you can use, and it's good if you come back from injuries, you're in lighter load training, and it has, there could be mitochondria benefits, capillarization benefits, extracellular matrix part of the muscle that don't get affected by the heavier load training could be remodeled with the high rep work. So that's beneficial there, but then tendons and connective tissue actually upregulate and get strengthened with loads that are over 60% of 1RM. So it's like, well, if you just do body weight, you're never going to actually strengthen connective tissue and tendons like if you lift 60% plus 1RM. So that has benefits. You don't get that with the 30 to 40% 1RM. So it's like, and then connective tissue could be a rate limiting factor. Why would a muscle get, and this is what you see in anabolics, so a muscle will get bigger than what the body wants it to get, and young guys tear tendons, pull biceps and pecs and bust themselves up because they get too strong for their tendons and connective tissue.
Right.
Tendons and connective tissue actually do have a synthetic rate after training, but it's far slower. It takes far longer to build strength in connective tissue and tendons compared to muscle. So when, again, nothing comes for free, anabolics, the pros and cons, you need to be aware of this, and a lot will injure themselves because their muscles get so big and strong that the tendons are still flimsy, 6 months old. So you want to think about that, and that's a benefit to doing the high load training. But then too much high load training and not having the light load training, now you're in the world where now joints and connective tissue are going to get beaten up. So it's sort of like, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But just understand that you can do it from both ends. In a perfect world, you tackle hypertrophy, I think, from both ends of the spectrum. Like I said, different vectors of driving anabolism. But it's not to say you can't just use anywhere from 8 to 12 reps for your hypertrophy, but still look at those fundamentals that I said. create an environment, then assess that environment, and focus on taking the sets close to the point of failure and adding that load or reps over time compared to the week prior. And it might not always be linear. It might not be a week. It might be you have had hypertrophy, but you just can't see it because you're jumping from 10 kilos to 12.5 kilos up. So you don't have a 2.5 kilo increase in contractile protein. It might be 11. So sometimes we're limited with the machines and weights we've got. We might, even though we've had hypertrophy, not be able to see it yet. So that can be an issue with load progressions, but micro loading is really good if you've got the little things that you can clip on or really light plates. But yeah, the back squat's good. I mean, your RDLs, you got pressing, you got rows. I mean, all these movements are great. And it's the same as now. Do machines have a benefit? They have, there's actually a recent study that did free weights and machines. Menno posted on it recently on his page, Menno Hanselmans, if you want to check it out. And that one showed that machines got just as much hypertrophy as free weights. So they're both great for hypertrophy. There's no superior exercise. Unless, of course, you're thinking about different rep ranges and then risk to reward and, certain stabilizing muscles becoming fatigued in that environment. So yeah, I would... an exercise is an exercise is an exercise. It's really what happens in that exercise that is going to get the growth response that you're after. So if you tick the boxes with those things that I said, think of exercises that have a full range of motion, use good exercise technique, a controlled tempo. What does that mean? Well, controlled, eccentric, concentric. You should be able to pause that tempo at any point in time. That way you're in control. Don't dive bomb reps. Control the eccentric and then a forceful concentric. Take rest periods that focus on performance. That's been shown in the research that longer rest periods equal more hypertrophy, and it's probably because you can lift more load if you're not huffing and puffing and cardiovascular
more effective
system.
set.
Yeah, exactly. They get those the better recruitment of those muscle fibers, and of course, no acute pain or discomfort. One of the things that the body is really, really good at is telling us when something's about to go. If we do a movement and say we do a skull crusher for the first time, elbows hurt, skull crushers aren't for you. Don't do them. Not
right now.
No, well, yeah, it might just be that movement. You avoid skull crushers, but they're triceps press down, close grip triceps press, or even overhead rather than horizontal. Well, that's okay. But on your back, skull crusher that's problematic. So really pay attention when there's pain. That's one thing that I would throw out there. But yeah, all the movements that you can think of with just a barbell or kettlebells, they're great. You just want to think about, can we progress in load over time? Now again, what if you don't have load progression? Okay, then it's sort of, I think you have to probably shoot for that higher rep work. So say you've got only a 210s on your barbell, it's 40 kilos, and you got strong quads, then it's not really going to, doing 8 reps, a low rep set, it's not really going to achieve it. So sometimes you have to gravitate to those higher rep ranges simply to take the set to the point of failure. But I think it's important to understand it's not doom and gloom if you don't have load. It's like, well, it is doom and gloom because you've got to do high reps, but you get a high metabolic stress and take it might be 30 reps. Anything over 30 reps, you're starting to get to that point where it just takes so long to get the fatigue and the necessary recruitment of those muscle fibers it's not effective. So up to about 30, maybe 40 absolute tops reps, but beyond that, it's just pointless. You try and find some more load, basically. But and then advanced training techniques, you can do sort of supersets and giant sets and all that type of stuff. But that's a conversation for another time. Right on. That's for the advanced episode. Yeah. Tell me, can I throw a couple of quick fire questions at you regarding nutrition? Sure. And a couple of these came through from our tribe. People want to know. Sure. This first one, you're going to love it. Oh, this is the one. But you've already touched on ideal protein intake is between 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram body mass. 2 grams to err on the side of caution. 2 grams. What is the best macro split to increase lean mass and lose fat? No, I think I am a coach that will tell you calories are king. So really we need to be, you can reduce body fat and build muscle mass, absolutely. Again, if you set the program up where you're tracking performance and you're forcing adaptation and growth, you can get away with growing muscle even though you're in a calorie deficit. But generally speaking, you want to be manipulating that energy balance, how much energy you need for homeostasis, to some degree, either increasing your output, so it creates a deficit, or decreasing your input. okay, less calories, to get fat loss. So that needs to be occurring on average over time, be it over a 7-day period. Some days you're in a deficit, other days at maintenance, but it has to collectively be in a deficit over time. So the macro split isn't as important beyond, and they've shown this in the research, beyond hitting your protein target. So that would be the golden rule for you. You guys know this already, but for the average punter, they typically undereat protein. So I think hit your protein target, and then some days if you got the remaining macros from fats and less from carbohydrates, maybe a day where you're not training, you can have your whole eggs, you can have your avocado and your more fats on that day. Great. Again, respect the energy balance, and that's what it's about. It's understanding energy balance and respecting it, understanding where your maintenance is roundabout, and then just manipulating the variables up or down. Or you might choose, well, I'm going to train today and I train better when I have higher carbohydrates, so I'm going to run fats down low. I'm still going to hit my protein, but I'm going to run higher macro of carbohydrates on this day. That would be the general advice I would give. The minutiae of, you might have some saying, well, carbs are better for training than fats, but yeah, maybe a little. And if you really depress me, I would say, yeah, on training days have higher carbohydrates, and that's what I do with the athletes I coach. It would certainly be high carbohydrates Monday through Saturday, and then zero pretty much, or very low carbohydrates and high fats on Sunday. It allows me to get fats in over a 7-day period sufficiently, and allows me not to muddy the waters with carbs and fats on training days. It's purely protein and carbs, and that takes on the headspace again of the athlete. Boom, it's training time, it's all protein and carbs, and well, it's relaxed time, it's protein and fats. Go to the cafe, have the breakfast, that type of stuff. They kick back and relax, recover, and start again the following Monday. So protein, hit that. And then on days, if you want more fats, have fats, but tracking everything and adjusting things accordingly. It won't really affect your ability to build muscle mass outside of maybe you train a bit harder, but you could train a bit harder on protein and fats anyway. Maybe psychologically it might be more challenging, but there shouldn't be any real physiological reason why a lower carbohydrate, higher fat environment will compromise your training performance in the world that we're talking about, not endurance training, just for hypertrophy training. You actually don't need a ton of glycogen to do that. So yeah, I think in general, protein and carbs around training, protein and fats away from training is how I'd recommend it, but hit protein target.
Cool. And if you are looking to lose body fat, stay in a deficit.
Basically, yeah. Or a deficit created by output going up, so you might move a little more, or input coming down, you just consume less, or a combination of both. You might just move a little more, get your steps up first, see what that does, monitor things every 1 to 2 weeks, make an adjustment. But again, if you've got tons of moving parts, you're comparing apples with oranges, and I hate apples with oranges. I like comparing apples with apples. So be consistent, be structured, then adjust things over time.
Good call. Simplistic. Do you see, is there really any difference between men and women in that discussion? Or I don't really see how there could be.
Look, some suggest that being high, estrogen dominant, their tolerance of carbohydrates for women, maybe not as much as for men. They might work better on higher fat, less carbs. But I think really think about the environment that they're existing in. Are they doing a big training volume? Are they doing a lot of hypertrophy training? Are they doing some endurance training as well? Well, that environment probably warrants, rather than male, female, that environment warrants more carbohydrates for recovery. It's the preferred fuel source. But yeah, if you were to really press me, there might be some legitimate literature and research to show that the toleration of carbohydrates for females might not be as good with males, but I think it's still calories that are king, and that's going to be the main thing that's going to influence body composition change and managing the energy balance. But think about the environment that said individual is in, whether it's going to be an environment that requires more carbohydrates with a lot more training volume, or lower carbohydrates. And on top of that, you may find some nuances with some individuals just feel a little better. Maybe be it psychological, or whether they legitimately physiologically are better performing with more protein and fats compared to protein and carbs. But you can sort of fluff around with that as well, like get them to have protein and carbs with meal one, how they feel that day, how was cognition, and then do protein and fats. Did you feel better? What was your brain function like? So some might prefer protein and fat to protein and carbs at different times throughout the day. But again, that's the minutiae. It's still total calories, and I think protein targets are going to be predicated on weight of individual. Women typically are going to be lighter than men, so it'll be less protein, less total calories for maintenance. So yeah, it would be more, think of the environment that they're in to influence whether it's higher carbohydrate or fat macro.
Makes sense. Rawdon Dubois, that was a fucking excellent episode.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed it. I do carry on a little bit, but we covered everything. And yeah, I by no means am I suggesting what I've suggested that I spoke about for you guys is the only way to do things. I think there's plenty of ways to get physique, in shape and change body composition. There, my thoughts on a few things. Certainly for hypertrophy, they're just my take on what I've read and things that I've seen and put into practice. And certainly on PEDs, like I threw that out. Like it's something that intrigues me, and probably like it does you. And I do sort of learn about that type of stuff, but in no way, shape, or form am I an expert in that field. So yeah, I just want to throw that out. But yeah, I absolutely love coming in, and if you ever want to have me on again, I would be more than happy to come down and talk shop. So absolute pleasure, and thanks for the opportunity, Joey. Pity the other boys weren't. I could have got well and truly grilled by everyone, but maybe next time.
100% next time. We'd love to have you back on. And awesome. Man, thanks for making the trip down to Botany. I think something just to what you just mentioned as sort of the information that you've put out not being necessarily the only way. Yeah. But I think that really what's central to this whole discussion is that there's many ways to skin the cat. You have to choose something, and you have to choose a process, and you have to follow it for a long period of time. Yeah,
for a sufficient length of time, and that will vary from person to person. But understand genetics are king. That's going to influence your speed of changing body composition. But really, a lot of the time you'll find that those individuals that maintain a certain physique that you might aspire to look like are just really diligent and consistent with everything, and they've been doing it for a little while and they know it works. So from the outside looking in, it's like they don't do anything. It's like, well, actually their steps their activity is really good. They're very, very consistent with their training. They don't miss training. They don't go out. They don't drink. There's lots of, again, moving parts that can influence things. So yeah, consistency is key. It's a bit of a cliche, but I think that's the first place to start, and then assess and adjust things along the way from there. But it all starts with setting something up and being consistent with it. And then when it's not working, that's cool. It's great. It doesn't matter that it's not working. It's like, well, I was consistent for the last 2 to 4 weeks. It didn't really change what I wanted to see change. So I'm going to move something, adjust it, reassess. A couple of weeks later, great, this worked. Stop working 2 weeks after that, great, let's adjust something else. It's hashtag not rocket science. It's pretty simple stuff.
Mate, if people want to hear your podcast or get in touch with you or see what you do, where do they go?
Under the Bar podcast. That's where Tommy Hewitt and I don the white lab coats on and pretend to be doctors and research scientists, but have a lot of fun there. Very fortunate to interview many cool people from the industry. So Under the Bar podcast, so you can check that out on iTunes and SoundCloud, I think, we have a website, underthebarpodcast.com. Or the Dubois method. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, or Rawdon Dubois on Facebook. Hit me up. I'm always up for talk and shop if you buy coffee. Mate, this is the first sort of, what's the cold pressed or something? I don't know what
Today
it is,
we're drinking filter brew from Panavore Cafe, which is in Pagewood, and they do Mecca. That's their bean of choice. So we're drinking that's the Mocha Master that they've given us for the show.
Good.
So we're drinking their beans through the Mocha Master.
Not bad.
You're an espresso guy.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Syrupy.
Yeah, I like the viscosity of an espresso. Yeah, it's
well
thick.
Put.
Sticks to the side of the cup. That's a good espresso for me. But just Instagram, Facebook. Happy. We'll talk for coffee. So I'm at Surrey Hills. Come and buy me coffee, and we'll talk about whatever you want.
Good man. And Dubois is Dubois for those that don't get the spelling.
Yeah, Dubois. Yeah, Dubois. Yeah, exactly.
Man, thanks again. And
thanks so much.
Look forward to having you on again sometime.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
Cheers. Guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully you got a bunch out of that. If you want to share that episode, that'd be awesome for us. Take a screenshot of it, post about it, tag Jungle Brothers, send it to a mate, send it to your smallest mate who needs to get big. We appreciate you guys supporting the show, and the more you do that, the more we can get on awesome guests like Rawdon. Thanks to Panavore Cafe for providing the brews that are always keeping us fueled. And upcoming events, we've got the fight night on the 12th of December. It's going to be an online stream. We now have 2 new sponsors on board, Famous Sodaco and Damn Good Wines. They will be providing wines and sugar-free beverages for the VIP guests to partake in on the evening. But a bunch of good things happening that night, and all the money goes, or all the proceeds go towards Rise Foundation Australia to assist their quest to help improve mental health in Australia. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll be posting the shit out of it on Instagram, and thank you for supporting. Cheers, fam. We'll catch you next week.